welcome to tonight's episode of Beyond Focus TV. I'm Lydia Patel, and as always, have a very special guest for you. Two lovely people, a power couple, Daryl-Marie and Elmin Ayala, founders of the Diakonia Movement. They'll be with us for the next 30 minutes, so stay with us. You're watching Beyond Focus TV. Beyond Focus TV allows you to discuss contemporary topics affecting the Caribbean people on both a national and local level. The show features informed guests who offer insight, debate, and evaluate various issues. Beyond Focus TV builds on the station's mission to provide useful information to the Caribbean people in New York and abroad. Beyond Focus TV, where our viewing audience can get educated, informed, and empowered. Welcome back. You're watching Beyond Focus TV. I'm Lydia Patel. Like I said, I have a power couple in the house tonight. I have Daryl-Marie and Elmin Ayala, the founders of the Diakonia Movement. Well, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, it's great to have you both here. We love having inspirational people, positive people who are doing things in the community. And not only that, you guys are a couple, husband and wife team doing it up. So that makes it even better. You know, you kind of tag team here tonight. We'll see whose brain power is going to be working. But it's lovely to have you here to discuss the Diakonia Movement. So kind of let's get straight into it about what it is. But before we introduce the Diakonia Movement to our viewers, kind of, Daryl-Marie, tell us a little bit about yourself before you became Ayala.
Okay. Well, I actually grew up here in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
I am a child of two immigrant parents from Haiti. They came here in the 1970s, the early 1970s, and just really instilled education, how education was important.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, but it defined who we were and what we would do.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up going to the University of Valley Forge, and my degree was in youth counseling as well as youth ministries. And so from there, I basically learned how to really counsel youth, how to
Mm-hmm.
really figure out what the issues are when it comes to children, as well as really diving into homeless outreach in Philadelphia.
That is amazing. And Elmin, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm another Brooklynite baby, Bushwick, Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm.
A few miles down the road. My mother's also born and raised in Brooklyn. My dad is from Puerto Rico, born and raised. He came also in the early 70s,
Mm-hmm.
When it was around that time when the Puerto Ricans were coming over to New York, and he instilled very passionately the working man, breaking your back and supporting the family, which is I respect, because it's where I get my drive. It's where I learned how to be who I am. And my mom was always that mom that was there, that was protective, took care of the home. So I got the best of both worlds, and that passion led to, what we're doing now. It was a few years, well, I'm going to date myself. It was more than a few years ago. It was when I was much younger. We did our first homeless outreach,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what birthed the passion to seeing the need and wanting to make sure that we always take care of a need that's necessary. Finding something that needs to be done, taking care of it.
Absolutely. I think what's so important now, always sets the foundation, is we're all children of immigrants. My parents are immigrants from the Caribbean as well, Trinidad and Tobago. So, it's, we all kind of, I think when you have that, it's something I'm very proud of.
Yes.
Nothing to be upset about or
Absolutely.
despite anything,
No.
we learn a different work ethic.
Yes,
we're just
we
raised
do.
different. Even though we're born here, they kind of remind you.
Yes, they do.
Mhm.
And they love to remind you.
Oh yeah, I got the stories of walking to school, with the one pair of sneakers, and learn how to be appreciative, and you learn, like,
You do.
sometimes you take it for granted, and when you're growing up, and it's like, okay, we have the sneakers match that outfit, the sneakers match that outfit, and sometimes as you get older, you realize, you know what, my parents really worked hard to make sure that we had that privilege.
Absolutely. Oh my God.
Which is something that Daryl and myself are trying to instill in our daughters as well.
You have to. I think it's so important when you have that foundation, especially when you get to go visit. And I've been to Trinidad many, many times, and I have a different love for it than what I had, of course, when you're younger, because you stay at your grandmother's house. There's no AC. You don't have the amenities and the luxuries, but you really get to understand the culture and how a lot of people live and how lucky we are to be here.
Not even that, but that our culture is rich.
Yeah.
You know, when you look back into the history of where you come from, that plays such a significant role in who you are and how your perspective on life. So it's actually a blessing to be a particle of immigrant parents.
Absolutely. And when I've traveled to many, many places, and it's funny to see homeless. I shouldn't say funny, but it's interesting to see the level of homelessness in other places. It's just so different compared to here. And here, you know, you still see resources and you still see people trying. Whereas when you're homeless in another country, you are legitimately on your own. Even the prisons, it's up to the families of the prisoners to feed them and bring necessities for them in there. Whereas here, you know, if they're locked up, it's like, hey, okay, I'm getting fed, living rent free. You know,
some of them even get cable television.
They get cable. You can get special requests, and I'm like, wow, it's just a different level altogether. So, how did the Diakonia movement come about for you guys?
Well, it's almost like piggybacking off of what we said. It's in part a combination of two things: experiencing certain needs and seeing certain needs. I know that one of the things for me, like I said years ago, a bunch of young people just said, you know what, let's just make a few sandwiches, cold cuts, and let's get a bag of chips and a drink, and let's head to Manhattan. And this was years ago, and we hit Grand Central Station, we hit Penn Station, and that just opened up my eyes to, because, you know, sometimes you see and hear homelessness on television, but it's a different animal when you actually go out there and you see the need and how much they appreciate what you gave them. To see somebody say thank you, because you know what, I didn't even know where my next meal was going to come from. It spurred that passion for myself. Then I know that Daryl has had some experiences as well that led to us founding the Diakonia Movement.
I know for me, it was different in the sense of my first time doing homeless outreach was actually in Philly. And, you know, we would go out and we would feed, you know, whoever we would see, but we would also sit there and have conversation, because, you know what, everybody has their own idea of who a homeless person is, not realizing that anyone at any moment, at any time, could end up becoming homeless. You know, it really is just life circumstances. And so, yes, you do have some people that will end up within the system, and they end up depending on certain drugs or alcohol or whatever. But then you also have to sit down and say, okay, what caused this? Let's get to the underlying issue of it all. Or not even just that. Let's talk to this person, because honestly, they may not be who you might picture in your mind for them to be. And so that's what struck a passion in me when I would sit down and I would speak to various people, and you would end up finding someone that was educated, had a master's degree, had a house, had kids, but something went wrong, and now they're unable to get themselves back to a place where they can take care of themselves. And so once what I thought was homelessness, once that basically dissipated just by talking to an individual, that totally changed my heart and my perspective and made me say, there has to be more. We have to do more. People in general just have to do more.
Well, hold that thought. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. You're watching Beyond Focus TV. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching Beyond Focus TV. I'm Lydia Patel. So right before the break, we were talking about conversations that you could actually have, which I have done because, you know, I'm a people watcher. You ride the train, and sometimes, you know, you're unaware. And as you get older, you realize once you actually start working, maybe have lost the job, go through things, you realize how close you are to dodging a bullet and becoming what you've sometimes turned your nose up at or didn't think as to how they got there. And I like to be able to, if you can, speak to them. How did this happen? Or when people are like, oh, don't they have family? That's always the first thing. Maybe they don't have family. Maybe their family is spread out. Maybe their family has already turned their backs on them. You know, there's so many other factors. Like you said, a lot of these people were well-to-do, educated people. It could be a divorce. It could be loss of employment, and you spiral into it's just snowball effect that could happen.
So many different things. Nowadays, it could be just the product of the economy. You know, where you had a job for a long period of time, and all of a sudden your boss just came to you and be like, I'm sorry, your position no longer exists. Or we're downsizing. And yeah, there are some resources that the government will give, but after that, then what? And you are left to fend for yourself, and you are left to depend on somebody else's kindness, and you are left to depend on somebody else saying, okay, you know what, I may be struggling, but I still want to help you in your current situation. And we feel that that's what Diakonia is about. We're not going to say that we're not aware that not everybody might have a struggle. We're just choosing to say, I'm going to help you through your struggle. And that's one of the things that we present to be about as well.
And that makes a big difference, because sometimes I may not be in the best position, but something small could, even giving somebody a swipe off the train, you know, I've gotten unlimited, and something you'll see people standing there, but it's not, again, it's not until you're a little bit older you understand how some people, you get a ticket for jumping the turnstile. And that turns into a warrant, which turns into other things. And it could just, so quickly, the system really isn't designed for the working poor.
Yes. And I'm glad that you said that, because that's actually our mission. Our mission is to actually go into various communities, working poor communities, and basically bring resources that maybe someone in a different demographic would be able to benefit from. So, you know, for us, like, we're very passionate about literacy and reading. You know, right now, I believe it's 87% of African American children, boys and girls, in the 4th grade aren't able to actually read on a 1st grade level.
Below.
And so, you know, some people will look at the statistics and say, oh, that's, you know, okay. Or even just say, all right, well, obviously it's the parents' fault, right? But again, we have to look at the whole child. We have to sit there and say, okay, what are the elements that are causing this child to not be at the grade level that they're supposed to be? What are some resources that we can bring into the family? If, let's say, that the parents don't have a clue on what to do, how can we come alongside of them and basically say, let me help you?
And that's a very valid point. Sometimes it's a single mother working 2 jobs. How is she... It may not be that she doesn't want to take the time to sit and read with her child. She's going from one job to another job, comes home dead tired. To catch 3-4 hours sleep to get up and do it all again tomorrow.
And let's be honest, schoolwork for children is really hard. I mean, they'll come home and it could take between 4 hours, 2 to 4 hours just to do their homework. So like what you said, if there's a single parent, or let's say there's 2 parents,